I am going to start this off with a very bold statement. And that is Donald Trump was a pioneer in DEI. Yeah, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Donald Trump was a pioneer of DEI. When all these pretentious politicians knew nothing about DEI, some of them weren't even wrong. Donald Trump was implementing DEI in his organization. And I'll show you. This is Barbara S., the first female in charge of any major New York City construction. She was the project manager, engineering project manager, on Trump Towers. First woman in New York City. Guess who hired her? Donald Trump. She was the executive vice president in charge of construction in the Trump organization and worked with him for 18 solid years.
Donald came upon this site, which had the Bonwood Teller building on it. It was kind of a landmark building. It was next door to Tiffany's. He loved it.
And there you have it. This is Louis Sunshine, his VP of Trump Organization from 1973 to 1985. Now, this is Barbara S. Listen to what she has to say in her own words.
To oversee the project, Trump surprised the construction world. He put a woman in charge.
He said that I would be his representative and act sort of like a Donna Trump, he said, calling me a killer. I would be in charge of everything that would normally come to him.
The men's world of unions and subcontractors in New York had never seen it before.
Donald told me that he thought that men were better than women, especially in this field, but he said a good woman is better than 10 good men. I think he believed that women had to prove themselves more than men, so a good woman would work harder.
Rez kept the contractors in line, and Executive Vice President Louise Sunshine handled the sales.
He hired the right people to help him, myself being one of them. And we got the job done.
Now let's talk about his chief of security, Robert Utze. Now, let me give you a little background. At that time, in 1974, 1975, crazy things were happening in New York City. The city was bankrupt. Sanitation workers were laid off by the thousands. Cops were laid off by the thousands. And Robert Utze, an African-American from the Bronx, was also laid off. And he was looking for a job. And he saw an ad. And he went into Donald Trump to see if he can secure a job. Now remember, this is 1975. Okay.
I look for solutions, not for problems.
Oh, what an amazing attitude. Listen to this man. He says he looks for solutions and not problems. This is after Robert Utze was laid off from the police department at that time.
September of 1975, I saw the listing for a chauffeur bodyguard. So this seemed interesting. So I went out to Mr. Trump's Brooklyn office, and I walked in, and there was about 6 other police officers in my situation, also waiting for an interview.
And that is pretty interesting. This man says there were 6 other police officers in a similar situation waiting for an interview. And I can only imagine that there may have been from several different racial backgrounds.
When I finally met him, I came into his office, firm handshake. He always had a firm handshake. We sat down and we talked, and he asked me about my time in the police department, asked me about my time in college. He asked me about my time as captain of my school karate team. And meanwhile, I'm just looking at this office and saying, wow, this guy got it going on. I remember the plate number. That was the car, DJT, and his father's car, I think, had FT.
Of the 7 of them, he's the one that landed the job. Sounds like DEI to me.
Yeah, it was 40 years ago. Wow, yes. I was grateful for the job, And I was curious about the things that were going to happen. His father's driver and we went down the block and we had dinner at a restaurant. And then we came back and we went inside.
And what do you know? Mayor Bean happens to be there at Donald Trump's wedding and runs in to the cop who had just gotten laid off and is currently Donald Trump's bodyguard.
The mayor was there. Donald told Mayor Bean that I'm one of the cops that got laid off to the mayor, and the mayor turns around and says, basically, I'm sorry about that, But I just held my tongue and just looked away.
So this man, an African-American man, gets an opportunity to take care of his family and the job of a lifetime when it mattered most. So there you have it. A pioneer of DEI. But all these pretentious politicians who has just come on the block will tell you otherwise. If you look at Donald Trump, he has been building New York City. He has been helping New York City. He has been strengthening New York City for a very long time. And again, if he's given the opportunity, I know he will take care of New York City and ensure that we realize the ultimate dreams that we can realize. Take a good and hard look at all these politicians and all these political appointees and ask yourself, what have they done for New York City? Where were these people when New York was going through its darkest moment? Donald Trump was there in his darkest moment. And Donald Trump will take it to the heights of its brightest moment. Ask them, look them in the eye. Ask them, what have they done for New York City? Why should we trust them with the mantle of responsibility to take care of New York City? Especially when they were given a chance and totally screwed it up. And it seems like they are about to wreck the city. Do you notice something? The people who have done most for the city are the ones they chastise and they disrespect and they try to destroy. They did it to Mayor Giuliani. They tried to take that man down. That man that turned this city around and changed the criminal landscape of New York and set in motion and created a model of law enforcement that worked for decades and took care of New York City and kept New York City safe. And look what they turned around and did to that man. So it's no surprise, again today, a man who has built New York City, literally built the landscape of New York City, newcomers, people who have done nothing for the city, are trying to destroy him and destroy and sabotage what he has created. And this is what I tell you. Democrats are economic and political failures. They know nothing about building and creating, but they are masters of destruction. Destruction of social life, destruction of economic life, and destruction of political life. The bottom line is this. Now that you know, if you didn't know, that Donald Trump was indeed a pioneer of DEI. But they wouldn't tell you this because these people care nothing about truth. Nothing about truth. Because if you know the truth, they would not be able to deceive you the way they deceive you. If you truly understood and know the history of the city, the stuff that they say, you will never be manipulated by it. So the bottom line is this. Be careful of the political, ravenous wolves in sheep clothing who cares nothing about this city and the citizens of New York, but are only concerned with political power to the detriment of this city.